Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Colorless Oranges, where I share my experiences to help better yours. I am your host, Sydney Hyatt, and today we're talking guilt and shame. This is a very deep topic for me. I think I have the most to say about this out of all of my other topics. This one hit home this past weekend. I've tried to record this video already and I was just in shambles and tears. I have experienced guilt and shame for a big part of my life. I think it's extremely hurtful to hear it out loud, talking about something that has impacted my life, impacted my decisions, coming from a place of fear and not really understanding that what I held inside was shame. I'm going to cut right to the chase. I think the thing that helped me the most when it came to my guilt and my shame was letting it out loud to the person that I felt I couldn't say it to. I voiced myself, I opened myself, and I just said it. And I think that, for example, my mom is like a really big, I want to say pillar, stepping stone person in my life who I hold their opinions higher than mine. I believe that she has much more wisdom than I do. She's much older, has much more experience, I feel like when we use the word elder, I don't mean like elderly. I mean like someone who has a lot of wisdom in them. And so expressing myself to my mom about certain things that I had shame and guilt about and seeing her reaction to it kind of dissipated everything that I ever kept inside of me. That like biggest fear, that biggest sadness, that thing that was like holding me back, because it does hold you back. You think that people are going to judge you for it, or people are going to disown you, or you kind of realize it was never that serious, at least for me. And I think that a lot of people can make that relation. Whatever it is that you feel guilt about, simply even like wanting love, for example, from somebody. I think that we harbor so much feeling, and when it comes to like our negative feelings, I feel that we hold those much deeper than anything else. There isn't a happy feeling that like sticks with you for as long as like fear. I think guilt can fester and make you take certain decisions that obviously impact your life greatly. You start creating these scenarios in your head about so and so because you did something, and now you think that they are out to get you or something, and it's not even like that. You've made that in your head. Sometimes we draw conclusions from our fears and from our guilt, and I think that like nipping it in the bud is extremely important. I think that diving in and really getting to the root of those issues is the hardest part. So recently, like this past weekend, it kind of was like a jump start, to like my guilt and shame, like to remember like, oh, wait a minute, like I haven't felt this in a very long time. I kind of throw away all of those feelings and those emotions, and I've never allowed them to come back in. But now I actually made a decision. Well, I was a part of something that hurt me, that hurt somebody else, and I felt like it was my fault. I felt like I should be the one to blame. Like it just cut really deep, and I was very sad over it. And so I try to come on here and I try to talk about it, but I was very emotional, and I know it's fine to be vulnerable. I always say that it is, but I kind of wanted to come here with my emotions in check and a little bit more clear-headed. I think it was amazing, and it was necessary for me to cry and let it out. Because I now see like clearly. I now understand where those emotions were coming from, and I understand how it's okay that these things come up. It's not that they're never going to come up. It's not that I'm never going to feel shameful of something ever again, but it's just how I react to that situation. So I've been trying to give myself this space to let those emotions out. And one of the ways that I like to do that is by listening to music. Music is by far one of the most important things in my life. I apologize if I'm emotional and that bothers you. My body is just purging all of these feelings, all of these emotions. And I'm at an age where I allow that to happen, because I know that holding them back in creates depression within me, creates anger within me, creates resentment within me, and I'm not trying to do that. So I'm just going to allow them to flow. Don't think I'm sad or anything, or I'm not depressed. I'm actually really happy to be where I am. I was scrolling on Instagram this morning because Lord knows I was very like, I want to do all of these things, but I don't know, like I just couldn't detach my phone from my hand as much as I wanted to. I think also though, in my head, I plan too many steps and I don't give myself enough like time to just do this one part, you know? For me, like getting out of the bed this morning meant like I had to get ready and I had to do all of these things. And once I was done with all of those things, I wouldn't have a place to relax. And my place to relax is my bed. So that's kind of why I stood in the bed for so long. But I was scrolling and I was coming across like a whole bunch of like old rock, like classic rock songs that I had never heard. I like to pride myself that I know a lot of songs. And every time I find a new song, I'm like, how didn't I hear of this? I call my mom. I'm like, hello, like you never, like what's going on? She's like, of course I showed you Pearl Jam. So I first bumped into Alice in Silence. What's their name? Alice in Chains. Why did I say Silence? It's Alice in Chains. Found out that lead singer was amazing. I think the song that I heard was Love, Hate, Love. Beautiful song. So I kept scrolling and they start showing you other songs that like are similar to those or similar to the thing that you've been liking or whatever. Boom, ran into Pearl Jam. I'm like, I know of Pearl Jam, but I've never heard this song, and the song was Black. And it just kept going, and I was like, wait a minute, like I love this song. This is literally a masterpiece, and his voice is just exactly the kind of voice that I like. And it helped me come to the understanding that I just love grunge rock. Like grunge is like my favorite genre of all time, of all genres. I love that deep feeling that an artist creates with their music, like that heaviness. I love it, and that's kind of, I think I'm geared towards it right now because that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling the heaviness of this guilt, of this shame, of like, making everybody's problems my own and holding on to everybody else's baggage as my own, including my own, If it was 100, now there's another 100 on top of this, and it's just super heavy. I'd love to play the song for you, a part of it. I actually heard the song because they showed a little snippet of the David Letterman show, and so David Letterman kept singing the song, like a part of the song, the why part, over and over and over. And the guy, Eddie Vedder, I think his name is, he's the lead singer. He just popped up on the show. He called and was like, hey, like I'd love to be a part of the show. So they basically surprised David Letterman with him on the show. And he just sang the last part of the song, which is like 4 lines. And I was just like, whoa, how haven't I ever heard this song before in my entire life? So I'm going to play you the part that I like a lot.
That's the Oprah song. Oh, is that what that is? Oh, very nice. Oh, you see, making a little dough of that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Really know how that's done?
Yeah.
Have it done
Do
right?
Do it for me.
Okay, Eddie?
Huh? Wait a minute. Eddie? No.
And then he literally just he walks off a stage. I hope that I got to leave the whole full part of it because there is copyrights on here. Um, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be a star in somebody else's sky. What? The impact. Because a lot of us have to let go, right? And usually like we're letting go of like something that we believed was ours or something that we believed that we were going to have forever. And so you see the beauty in it. You see how amazing this is, this star. And so to know that that star is going to be placed in someone else's sky, that person or whatever situation it is that you're going to let go, is going to be just as beautiful, might be even better in somebody else's life, is so hard. It is so difficult to like understand that, especially if you have control issues, possession issues, you like to have your stuff and your stuff is yours, kind of also feeling FOMO, like, damn, I'll never be, the reason for you to smile or anything like that. I don't know. I think the heaviness of the song just really attracted me, and it has like brought out all of these emotions that I've been feeling. Especially with my latest experience. I just like to pride myself in not making any wrong decisions. I like to believe that like nothing is wrong. There are just situations, there are just things that happen, and everything is a lesson, and a majority of it is also a blessing in disguise, and whatever happens for a reason. And it's very difficult in that very moment of when it happens, to understand that like this is for your betterment, this is for the good of all. Sometimes you just gotta be like, the scapegoat. Sometimes you gotta be the one to like pull the trigger or whatever. And that was just really hard for me this weekend. I like to just be okay. I don't really like to be the fault of anything, and I was, and it's okay. Also recently I met with a friend's friend. We were on her live. Beautiful community. It was a really like nice experience, because a lot of the times people who have a big platform, they don't really like to share it. They don't really like to invite other people, especially smaller creators like me who only have like 1,100 people on Instagram and like 1,600 on TikTok now, which finally we made to 1,600 today on TikTok. I'm very proud. It was just a very nice and inviting environment, but at the same time, a lot of the things that I was saying was coming from a place like, oh, like you've just lived this perfect life your whole life. And it was like at first I was like trying to help people understand that like not necessarily, like this has come from growth, like this has come over time. I wasn't the same person a couple years ago or growing up. I didn't have the same views that I have now when I was younger. And this morning, as I was processing everything that was going on, I was like, wait a minute, like that's beautiful. You're not able to see the pain that I've endured, meaning I have let go of that pain, meaning I've overcome those tragic moments in my life, meaning I don't appear as the problems that I have had in my life. You can't see them anymore, meaning I have done the work, meaning I have healed. I know there's a lot of aspects in me that is still healing, and I'm still growing. Of course, I'm never going to put a lid on growth. But it really took these people to like, oh, like, you don't know. We were talking about how, so the friend, her name is Jennifer. She had done these confessionals, and people were confessing things to her. And one of the confessions was how upset they were because their mom was shipping their clothes to the Dominican Republic. And I was like, well, like, you just gotta have boundaries, and you gotta, let them know how you feel about it. Because I feel that a lot of problems occur because people aren't on the same page and they don't understand where you're coming from, or they don't understand what it is that you're trying to, what it is that you're going through. They're not educated in that specific realm. I always say that all these problems happen because of a lack of education. If you know what's happening, then I feel that you would make better decisions, right? So that's all I was trying to say. And they're like, oh, like, you don't have a Dominican mother, like, you don't understand what it's like to have somebody constantly in your space and stuff like that. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what is giving off that I've never endured somebody overstepping my boundaries? Like, what gives that vibe to people? Like, what makes people think like I've never gone through anything? And I wasn't trying to be defensive or anything. I was just letting them know or whatever. And then they just kept on. And I was like, a really big problem within the community is that this person, because this person specifically, and majority of the people who have those boundary-less people who don't understand their place in your life or whatever, they'd rather tell their friends, tell everybody else about their issues versus the person that they have the issue with. And then that's when everybody's like, oh, like, yeah. And then we walked over it, which fine. Maybe those people aren't in that moment. Maybe it did click for somebody to let them know, like, whoever's hurting them, like, what's going on or whatever, give them the space to do better. I feel that you can't expect somebody to treat you better or whatever if they don't know what it is that you want. Now, are they capable of it? That's a different story. I've had to learn the hard way that I can't want things from people who don't have it within themselves to give. I can't expect somebody to be kind who isn't kind to themselves, or even wasn't taught to be kind, because this is just how they are. I don't like to give that excuse too many times to people, because I just feel like you can change. It was in my nature to be violent at one point in my life, and it's not anymore. So I understand that there is change. One of my favorite sayings, like, of all time is like, everything's the same until you look back and everything has changed. And I don't know, like, you live your life and you go day to day and you don't like think about everything so consistently. You're not always like trying to put a side-by-side comparison of like who you were 10 years ago versus who you are now. But sometimes looking back can just bring you a sense of like wholeness, of happiness, of I achieved this. There would be days that I would pray to like just be okay, and I'm here. Like, we're constantly always living in a prayer, and I feel that a lot of us forget that, especially in those moments of like, damn, I just messed up, I made the wrong decision, or when you're holding all that guilt, you kind of never think to yourself like, this is what I've asked for. I have been paralyzed in fear in making the wrong decision for the last year and a half of like, I want to move and I want to buy a car and I want to do this and I want to do that. It had held me back for so long that I was like, I don't know what else to do. And any decision I make is going to be dumb. I didn't trust myself because I let one situation happen. Now, the one situation happened is when I was moving out of my last apartment, I didn't know what direction to go. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to come out of that specific situation of like not having a job and needing financial security. I didn't know what I was doing. So I came here to my mom's house, got very comfortable here. And I kind of just started healing. Like, this is 2020. Like, this is what I know now. At the moment, I thought I was just like trying to figure things out, and I was whatever. Little do I know, I was healing myself. I was healing all the guilt and shame and sadness that I had felt with like everybody that was in my life. My mom, my older brother, my dad, my sisters, like everybody, my friends, like healing myself, literally. And, it was all thanks to being able to have the space to do so. Had I known I was doing that before, I kind of would have been a little bit more easier on myself in the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be. But nonetheless, I'm very thankful that I have grown this much. But yeah, so since that happened to me, since I felt like I lost, or I felt like I made the wrong mistake, or all of those feelings, I never made another decision after that. I was paralyzed in fear. I was like, well, anything I do is not going to make sense, and it's not going to give me this. And basically I was starting from zero again. And that's not what I wanted, obviously. Now at this point, I'm very happy to have, had a clean slate and started again from nothing. Because I'm able to just come bring everything from new. It's kind of hard though, like financially wise, starting from zero, getting a job that only pays $22 an hour and you're doing it part-time, that is very, very difficult. Especially when you come from making like a lot of money, let's say. It is very hard. Sometimes we wrap our worth in our money, and that is like something that I've tried to separate myself from. I know that I'm much more than my paychecks. I know that I'm much more than the material things that I can provide. And that is also something I've been healing for the last year and a half. I feel a lot more safer within myself, and this little one hiccup that happened didn't knock all my progress down, which is how I know that my foundation is very sturdy now. Had this happened to me before and I would have still had all that guilt and resentment within me, this other thing would have just been my 13th reason. This would have been like the atomic bomb to everything. And it wasn't. It was kind of just like okay, like that happened. That's messed up. But let's keep going. Like we don't have to dwell on it. I took my couple days and I was sad about it. But that's it. It's not a catastrophe. Like we can keep moving from this. It's not the end of the world. Things happen and that's it. Before though, it would have been like, yep, God does not want me here anymore. I'm the kind of person that might just not be here tomorrow, actually. He's punishing me for whatever I did and whatever. I don't have those kind of fear-based ideas or thoughts anymore. The decisions I'm making right now, I understand that there's no right or wrong. They just are. Okay, and this is what I chose to do. I chose to help my mom get my brother a car. That's what we're doing. That's what's happening. He and I are sharing this car. And that is a decision I've made. And I'm standing on my decision. I'm standing on what I believe is right at this moment. I'm not trying to think of the longevity of everything because it has made me freeze. I didn't want to get into certain jobs because I'm like, well, it's not going to help me get this and I need this. I don't need anything. Okay? Everything I've ever wanted, I have. Now, moving forward, whatever comes, it is through my own decision that I want to firmly make. Okay? Let's say this job is only paying me $20 an hour. This is what I need for at the moment, and something better will come from that. There's nothing bad that can happen, okay? Like, yeah, sure, that my last job that I had in property management didn't necessarily take me anywhere, but it gave me experience. So maybe it wasn't exactly what you were looking for in that situation. Maybe you wanted X and you got Y, but it's because you needed Y. You understand? Like, X will come at a different date. And that's also something else that I've come to understand, that like I may have wanted this car a whole year ago, but it was now that I got it. And it's not about the time that I have put. It's about still getting to the goal. Okay, so it's not necessarily how long it took me to get this car, but it's about I got the car. And these are the steps that took me to get to the car. I had to not believe in myself. I had to be fearful of like, well, what am I going to do? And all of this stuff, and like listening to all of these people telling me things. It was just about coming back to myself, trusting myself that I will get myself out of this. Just like I've gotten myself out of every other issue I've ever had. Whatever happens is for the highest good. Like there is just nothing wrong. unless like you're actually committing something that you know is 100% wrong. And that's different. I no longer expect things to happen at the dates that I put them in my head. So at this moment, right, I'll be like, I want to sell these sneakers. Normally before I'd be like, I want to sell these sneakers by Monday. And today's Friday. Now it's like, I want to sell these sneakers. They will sell when they need to sell. They will sell when I need the money for that, or they'll sell when I need to meet the person that I'm going to sell it to. Whatever way that it sells, it will sell. It's just not on Monday. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think putting like so much control and so much like, I need this to happen by this date, means that there's other things that you want. Means that there's something else that you're looking for. And usually it takes you up until the moment that you can see like, well, why it is that I want to sell this on Monday. I want to sell this on Monday so that I can get this. You know what I mean? And like you keep on going down that like, okay, well, this is this and this means this. You keep on doing that. You end up finding your like need for control and how that's no good for you and how that's hasn't brought you anywhere, honestly. Because my need for control put me in many crazy places. Like this last year and a half, I wanted to control everything. I was like, you know what? This isn't going to happen to me anymore because I'm going to get a job that's going to pay me this amount because I have the experience for it. Meanwhile, the job market is disgusting. Yes, I've been applying actually. Because that was also another thing too. I wasn't really applying. Like I was applying, but not necessarily like to a lot of things. Because of certain situations, I was like, well, I'm not going to apply to somewhere in Persephone, let's say. How am I going to get there? You know, I kind of put too many barriers in front of me. If it's for me, I would find a way to get there. It's that simple. So I just had to start trusting myself a little bit more, putting myself in a better headspace. Like I can literally have whatever I want. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I can have whatever I want, just like you can. You can have whatever it is that you want. I promise you, you're the only person that's stopping yourself. I could have definitely had this car a year ago. Had I just not been so scared that I was going to lose it or not be able to afford it. Remove your expectations. And I think I struggled so hard. Sorry, y'all. You know, the camera stops recording after 30 minutes. What I was saying was I misunderstood the word expectations. I kind of thought like expectation was goals. And I was like, well, if I'm supposed to remove my goals, like then what am I supposed to do? So I now understand that removing my expectations, what that looks like for me is when the thing that I want, when that's going to happen. I've removed the date and time to when something is going to happen. And that's actually been like my biggest lesson in life. Growing up, I would tell my mom like, hey, I really want this and I need it by X, Y, and Z. I need it. I didn't need it by then, but I would tell her I needed it by X, Y, and Z because I had my own agenda, you know? And I'd never get it at the time that I wanted, but I would still get it. I remember when I was in middle school, I don't know why tracksuits were like super poppin'. And I really wanted this Adidas one. And in my school, we only were allowed to wear uniform. And on certain Fridays, we would wear, we would dress down or whatever. So I was like, oh, like I'm going to have my thing. I had already been planning this and I had already told my mom, please, it was Thursday already, okay? And I needed it by the next day. And she's like, oh, she wasn't able to get it for me, but she told me to like get the money for it and just go get it myself. Me and little baby Ash trooped to our fucking Fordham. I remember I went into, I think it was VIM on Fordham and Grand Concourse. Boom, tried it on. I got my black and purple. Was it black and purple? I think it was black and gray. And I wore my cool grays on Friday and I got my stuff. So, I mean, I pushed a little bit harder because that's also another thing too. I feel like sometimes we like to say like, oh, it's not happening for us. I mean, how hard have you tried? You know, it's like when you're under that pressure, that's really sometimes when it counts. Sometimes though you can't force things, but sometimes you can give yourself a little bit of pressure to like push through and get to do that thing that you want to do. So, I mean, maybe that wasn't the best example of like, I got it at a different time. There's been many things that I've gotten at a later time. I wanted to move out of my first apartment like 2 years in. I was there for like 4 years. I ended up moving out to the place that I wanted to live at the entire time, and I had a great time. It didn't happen when I wanted it to, but it happened, you know? I've always had to learn that though, like between my mom, my father, like everybody in my family, like I've always had to understand that it's not at my time, it's at God's time. It's at the time that it's meant to happen for me. And when it happens, it happens. I'm very thankful for that though. It has given me a little bit of character, a little bit of experience, a little bit of wisdom in knowing that whenever I get what it is that I'm asking for, that is when I, number one, need it, and number two, maybe even deserve it, you know? I wanted to give you guys also the exact definition of shame. The definition of shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. That's actually beautiful. That's like the best definition I've ever heard of that. A painful feeling of humiliation. Because humiliation is a feeling already. And also you're adding the painfulness of the humiliation. I mean, I don't really know when there's a time that you might be humiliated and not feel painful, but you have both of these deep feelings that we can hold on so much. Like pain can be put at 50% and like project something and make that even deeper than what it was, you know? So a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by consciousness. So basically understanding that like what is happening right now is wrong. You know, like you're very aware that this situation that is happening at this very moment is wrong or foolish behavior, which, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it too, though, comes and stems from like our childhood and understanding like right from wrong, you know? Sometimes I can feel a little bit shameful for like wearing a top with a little bit too much cleavage. Is it cleavage? Why do I keep saying cleavage? Cleavage. You know, it's like, oh, like you're being provocative and stuff like that, and I'm really not. But it's just the way that I was raised with the people and their views, and like it started molding my views, and I thought, you know, this is too promiscuous and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, which then shuts me down. I won't do certain things because I'm afraid of what others might say, and that's being fearful, sitting in your shame. Like, first of all, shame is made up by everybody else's thoughts for me. I don't need to be fearful. I don't need to have any shame. If I want to dance on my TikTok or my Instagram, I can. I'm not doing anything like I'm not doing anything wrong, you know? I'm living my life, and I'm doing the things that I want. And I think that shame really creates a deep, 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 deep root of depression. Like, you shouldn't feel shameful for anything that you've done. You've done the things that you needed to do for yourself. You know what I mean? I think that is something that like 15-year-old Sydney needed to hear. Just it's okay what you did. You did the best that you could do with the knowledge that you had at that moment. And now, yes, of course, hindsight is 20/20. Of course, if you knew what you knew now, you wouldn't have made those same mistakes back then. But we're not talking about what you knew now. We're talking about what you did with what you knew. And you didn't do anything wrong. You just did what you thought you could do. And that's it. Give yourself a little bit more grace and understand that it wasn't even a mistake. Okay, it just had to happen that way. There's nothing wrong in this world. It's all what we do and what we think of it. Like, you can change your perspective to anything. I'm not trying to say also, I'm not like, please do not get me wrong. I'm not talking about the people in Arkham Asylum, okay? I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the little stuff, and not even little, because there are bigger topics that are in shame, especially with women, that we, hold very close to us. And it's not even shameful. Like, living your truth. Stand on your same 10 toes that you had when you made those decisions. And don't let anybody try to sway you and make you feel like what you did was wrong. You did what you needed to do for you. I think that's also why I don't ever project that I have like any beef with my mom about any of the decisions that she made, especially with the story that I've shared on here many times, like about, growing up with my dad and stuff like that. There is nothing wrong. She did what she had to do. Like, hats off to her. And also the definition of guilt is, oh yeah, I remember, it was terrible. What I saw was, the definition is horrible. It says the fact of having committed a specified or implied offense or crime. Like, that is disgusting. Why would you even make that definition? While guilt is a response to a specific event or behavior, shame affects how you feel about yourself. What does that have anything to do with what I asked? Guilt, a feeling of responsibility or remorse for some offense, crime, wrong, etc., whether real or imagined. Yes, exactly. I'm happy that they put the word imagine there, because sometimes our guilt is imaginary. I mean, no. Like, the feeling of guilt is there, but like the reason why we feel the guilt, like whatever reason you've given, like, oh, I'm so guilty, you've made that up. And you've put all of these things in your brain, and your brain, of course, is going to leave you where you feel the most comfortable. And if you sitting in guilt means that you're not going to get up and go to that 5 a.m. class, or go look for a job, or mend that relationship with your mom or whatever, it's going to keep you there. And you're going to sit in your guilt, and you're going to sulk, and you're going to like probably gain 30,000 pounds, because that's what most people do when they feel guilty about things. And yeah, let go of the things that no longer belong to you, which could be, number one, carrying other people's baggage. Because sometimes I do feel like I am the reason why certain people have done certain things or have been put in certain predicaments. I'll carry their thing on me. Let go of that. That has nothing to do with you. You are you. That's number one. Understand that you did the best that you could with what you had. There is nothing that you could have done. There's nothing that you can do to change it. So might as well look at it differently. Try to do better next time. And understand that you were put in this situation, number one, to either share your experiences with other people so that they don't make that same mistake. Or if you're ever put in that same situation again, you know what to do. It's all a learning lesson. We all do this to learn for the better. I think it's important to, yes, of course, hold yourself accountable, but also give yourself grace. The same amount of accountability you give yourself a little bit of grace and heal those feelings. You're not wrong for feeling all of these guilt, because again, there is no right, there's no wrong. And just be happy with whatever you chose, because I know it was for the best. Unless like you should be behind bars, like even our bar system is messed up, but you know what I mean? I feel like there's so many technical things that like pass through my brain. Like, I don't want you to think that like I think everyone that's in jail is bad, because I know that a lot of people have been, prosecuted incorrectly and stuff like that. It is what it is. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about our stuff that we have to deal with here to be better humans for the world, to change these cycles of just choosing the lesser evil or whatever, just so that we can just be all well-rounded people. And also take a step back and ask yourself to think about how far you've come from that situation, or how far you've come just in general in life. Just be proud of yourself and understand that those things that you went through, you had to go through to be where you are today. And just be proud of yourself, like genuinely. I think that's so hard for me to do sometimes. I feel that I always find a reason to not feel so proud of myself. I'll be like, well, I did this and I could have done this and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you're actually a star. You're really amazing. And you deserve to feel that way. I hope that today's episode has helped you in some kind of way. Please don't forget to comment. It really means a lot to me, just knowing how you guys feel about certain topics and episodes. Yeah, don't forget to like and share with your friends, whoever you think that might need to hear this. I appreciate you guys for taking the time out to always watch my episodes. I am Cinderella. I am Sydney Hyatt, and I am your host on Colorless Oranges. And I'll see you and you in the back that hasn't gotten a manicure soon. Oh, color theory is real, because when I wear white, I'm bawling my eyes out. When I wear black, I'm a little bit more like I stand in my purpose and I am holding my emotions back a little bit. You know what I mean?